Hello and welcome back to episode 9 of Snapping Towels. I'm Cam Williams, joined by my co-host Kyle Foote. However you may be listening, thank you for making us part of your day. Kyle, what is going
Partner,
on?
how you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. It was a pretty interesting weekend of lacrosse. It was fun to see Syracuse take care of business up in the Dome. Wasn't expecting it, but really fun to see a big Cuse win led by Gary Gate in the Carrier Dome. Pretty special.
Absolutely. Let's just hop into that game right off the bat. I thought it was definitely a game that Cuse had circled and Duke didn't. It had that kind of vibe. Cuse jumped on them early with a big lead. The Cuse defense was playing with intensity we haven't seen this year from that group. And Bobby Gavin was seeing everything.
Yeah, it looks like Cuse has probably found their goalie the rest of the way. They were kind of playing musical chairs between the pipes first half of the season, but for Bobby Gavin to get this start, play the whole game, beat a top 10 team in Duke, an ACC rival, and 3-5 is a lot different from 4-4, right? An opportunity to go 3-5 or 4-4 here, and for Bobby Gavin to step in with a really nice day between the pipes, get a massive win. I think that kind of cements his spot in the cage for Cuse the rest of the way.
Absolutely. Cuse was, they were winning the ground ball battle. They were just hustling harder. And it looked like Duke kind of slept on them. And it was one of those Duke games like they had versus Loyola where they came out a little lax, not taking care of the ball, and a lot of empty possessions. And Cuse was just capitalizing. And it looked like kind of the contraire. Their offense was humming like we haven't seen before this year. They were swinging the ball side to side. It wasn't dying in sticks. It wasn't, let's let Tucker work and everyone else watch him. It was swinging it back and forth and really caught Duke off unexpectedly. It was crazy. It was a beautiful thing to see. One thing I noted, like every time the camera pans to the stands in the Dome, it's like you get hit into a retro Cuse game in the 70s. Every guy has
Capsule, baby.
Every guy has like a retro Cuse shirt on and has like a blonde mustache or like a gray stash with like a beard and some hair on him with the hat on, with the old Cuse retro hat. It's just a great vibe, and you could tell the locals were just loving every second of the beatdown they gave these Blue Devils.
Yeah, in my opinion, I really do think it's the Mecca. I had the privilege to play there twice in the Carrier Dome, and it's a lot of college games. You go to or you play in. It's students and parents. Syracuse has a rabid, loyal, local fan base that kind of almost fills up the Dome every Saturday for every home game that they have, and it's really cool. You can tell these people aren't just kind of your fly by night lacrosse fans or average sports fans. They've been going to Syracuse games for a couple decades, and you can really feel it in the energy and the vibes in the stadium. So yeah, I totally echo that.
Absolutely. I think, from the jump, the Syracuse locals had something to talk about, honestly. And one thing we didn't talk about last week, it was kind of a thing buzzing around in the lacrosse community on social media. Nikai Montgomery had some serious comments and statements about just showing self-confidence. And I don't have a problem with that, but it was all focused towards himself. Casually saying he's going to be the midfielder of the year because Connors is playing pro ball now, who won as an LSM last year, and casually saying he was going to be a first team All-American, and just kind of being like, yeah, these things are just going to happen.
Foregone conclusions.
Yeah. And it was almost like it's like, I don't know, all athletes are different, but a lot of the ones I'm around and familiar with, like, just wouldn't put that juju on the team or like omen. You kind of think that'd be like, it's you could say arrogant or whatever like that, but give him love. He's a great player, and he's been a great midfielder there for 4 years, and he's earned accolades, but it's kind of the omen and the putting himself first. And there was no team talk in these clips. And I think foremost, he's never won a national championship. But being at Duke, you're kind of expected at least a showing in the national championship.
It's one or or bust almost at this point for
especially
these
with the
Duke
rosters
classes.
they've been having with these transfers and these all-stars and these, all these guys they've having. So there's no really team mention in these casual drops. And he came out and had a 2 assists and no shots on goal. Maybe he didn't even get a shot off
I don't think
game.
I don't think he got a single shot off, and one of his assists was a result of a pretty poor forced feed on his part. Got tipped, and he made a nice play, picked up the ground ball, and hit an open
Dart
guy.
it backside. Yeah, it was a
Yeah,
scramble.
it was a nice play off a scramble, but the scramble was a result of a poor play on his part. Look, I want to echo what Kyle said. We're very big fans of Nakai Montgomery's game on this show. We've dubbed him the hockey assist king. And I don't think there are many cooler things to be the king of. But it was, the interview was what it was, acting as though it was a foregone conclusion that he was going to be the midfielder of the year. He hasn't necessarily played like that. I think Sam Hanley, just off the top of my head right now, is the midfielder of the year. I think there are several others that have put together a better first half or first 3/5 of the season than Nakai Montgomery to this point. Also worth noting, he wasn't just talking about the lacrosse field. He was saying that he was pretty much guaranteeing Carcaterra that he was going to be on an NFL roster next fall. We'll see how that goes. I wish him the best of luck in that. I'd love for him. I love, stories like Chris Hogan and the Bryant kid. I don't, what's his name, Kyle, the Bryant kid on the Detroit Lions.
Finn's going to kill me.
We'll have it in a little bit, but I would love to see Nakai Montgomery on an NFL roster. That'd be a great look for the game of lacrosse. And, he's clearly a great athlete who's worked his tail off to get to this point. Wish him nothing but the best, but to have that midweek interview, Duke to kind of come out, lay an egg to at least what everybody kind of thinks is an inferior team in Syracuse, isn't the best look in Durham. Duke is no stranger to a slow start and a fast finish. So, it remains to be seen. There's a lot of lacrosse to be played. But yeah, not a good performance from the Duke Blue Devils. Hell of a performance from Tucker Dorotovic.
Yeah, his name is Tom Kennedy. Played lacrosse 2A midi at Bryant, and then ended up getting a tryout with the undrafted tryout with the Detroit Lions.
This is the Bryant guy we're talking about for our listeners.
Correct. He played football at Bryant, set records, set neck records, was a staple, punt returner, slot receiver, kind of a hatchet man, do it all. Got a lot of touches with the pigskin, and then grinded for a couple years, making his real debut this year. And he pretty much blew up. That, everyone knew, like, if you knew about him, you knew he's on the team. He gets some preseason snaps with Stafford. Fast forward, Jared Goss in the mix. This year they ran a wide receiver sweep, and he ended up tossing a touchdown, which blew him up again. And people are like, oh man, there's a lacrosse guy in the NFL, which was big news. But yeah, it's a grind, and we wish him the best the best of luck with that, mission of his, or a goal of his. But yeah, again, to have those comments come out and start off slow, like you don't have anything to prove against a hungry Petro-led defense.
You got to imagine that was bulletin board material up in Cuse this week, no doubt about it.
Yeah, Brendan Curry, guys like on the offense, Tucker Dorotovic, that have been kind of lower in the All-American lists and not really gotten the respect they deserve, because in some years they'd both be first teamers if Cuse is putting together a little bit of a better season. Yeah, you got to think those guys saw it and kind of scratched their head, and it gave them something to kind of show out for. But something that showed out immediately on the screen was a rogue timeout called by Petro, who couldn't have been more in the zone in that first quarter defensively. I thought he was going to strap up for a second and get out there. But
wow, how much time was on the clock when he called that timeout?
0.3 seconds. And everyone in the dome, granted, you don't want to give up a goal. You're up, I think, 7-1 or 6-1. You don't want to give up a goal with 2 seconds left, but there's physically not enough time for when they blow in an end line ball to, if it gets possession and then tipped in the goal can't be done in 0.3 seconds. I think
So
you need
one of two things was
1 second.
going on. One of two things was going on with Petro here. He either was looking at the shot clock and confuse that for the game clock, or he just wanted to bring his troops over and scream at them for some odd reason. I don't know why.
No,
But he wanted two opportunities to do it. One with his timeouts. Okay, but one with his timeout and one at the end of the quarter. He wanted two opportunities to scream at them, or he was looking at the shot clock. One of two things.
He didn't want a last second goal to occur. And Duke was pressing. They got a shot off with this one or 2 seconds left. When it went out, it was 0.3 on the clock. Petro might have not even looked at the clock.
He might have not
and
quite
just called it
it
and been like, I don't like how we're settling up. The cameras then panned to Gary and their assistant coach. I forget his name. We've talked about him on here before, coming over from Princeton. He's doing a great job with Gary doing that offense. That seems like they're finally finding a rhythm. They couldn't have been more just ripping on Petro for that timeout. Like it almost like they were laughing. It was palms up. Like you could tell that Gary had to get the assistant to stop like asking Petro like why he did it. It just seemed kind of like one of those things where they're like, this guy is beyond in the zone with this defense. Like we just gotta let him run with it. Which was really, I texted Cam right when it happened. I was like, what the hell was that? Because you got to save them. Like they're important at the end of halves. If God forbid, Duke's no stranger to a 3-goal run in a minute and a half where you're going to burn a timeout to
40 seconds. Yeah.
So it's like you burn one there in this kind of game. It's pretty funny to me, but the guys coaching off feel, and I can respect that.
Yeah, luckily for Cuse, it didn't end up mattering. Tucker Dorotovic, I mean, I mentioned it briefly earlier, but absolutely went off for 5 and 2. I don't understand why he has a short stick on him so often. One of the best dodgers in the country.
Great job running little razor picks, and it gets teams that don't step out on those picks in trouble. Because if you step, you can play it two ways. You can sit on the back hip of the defender and jump out and then hedge back and get that dodge offline. Your defense can recover, or you can switch and be lazy about it. And that's
I wouldn't be switching against Tucker Dorotovic. Like I wouldn't.
I don't think. Yeah, he's a tough cover. You can. So playing it like that is determined in the meetings before the game. So it seems, it's a little bit of a head scratcher why at halftime they're not like, okay, we're going to have to jump out, push him out and get our pullback on him. I think it's a little bit of like stubbornness again with these coaches, not really like wanting to switch their game plan. But hey, Belichick's Belichick for a reason. He's the best halftime coach in football history, and he has got the most Super Bowls to show for it. So I think people need to bury the egos on these game plans,
some halftime adjustments.
Yeah. He was shooting the ball incredible first half, spraying it high, second half all around the ankles. He's switching it up. Tough to see Griffin Cook to go down with an injury for Cuse as they're already banged up, picking up some kind of offensive steam. They've got talent to come in and replace him and get a goal or two here or there in the game.
It's a big loss, though.
But it is a nice piece
for them.
He's a 4-year player, played attack for a while. Owen Seabolt showed out again. Brendan Curry is a problem all over the field. Really impressive game. He runs up and down the field the entire game. He looks winded rarely.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Incredible shape. And on the Duke side, like, aside from O'Neal's hat trick, which was kind of a similar one that he had against Loyola, like the goals weren't really
little late, little too late, too little.
Too late. Yeah. Aside from his hat trick, everybody really kind of had a pedestrian stat line. We already talked about Nakai's just 2 assists, no shots taken. Duke's got to figure it out on offense. The too many weekends, we leave the weekend saying, Duke looked a little bit disjointed, or these guys didn't show up. Like there's a lot of talent there. Early in the year, Lully was really coming in with some big performances. But they really need Lully to start stepping up again. They need Robertson to start stepping up. They got to figure it out. And Dyson Williams too. We're not seeing a lot of Dyson Williams, at least in the box score.
It's tough. I mean, it seems like they've got options, so they're playing a little tight because like Dyson Williams he's been pulled in a lot of games, and it's and Lully goes in. It's Robertson, Lully, and then O'Neal, and it's kind of like they haven't put together the combination. McAdory, I thought, was a light in this game. He looks, every time he got shot out of a cannon, and he was just dusting short
Yep,
sticks.
he's dangerous.
So if they play, I think they got behind early. They try to force some things. If they can get in their offense and have him get shot out of a cannon, beat people, banging it again, and you have Lolly on a dodge, it just flow more. They weren't really flowing offensively. It was rare to see from a Blue Devils team. One kid I did see was Reed Landon, a kid I saw in the Loyola game late in the game when their third line was having this ridiculous fourth quarter where every time they went in, he's great, and he's a freshman, and I think he'll be more on the second line, treading the first line. He's going
to be more involved for sure moving forward,
because he had some sick plays that, it's big when a kid like that freshman goes in and can make a play when your 10 years aren't. So
and just Duke's disjointed offense. There were just so many empty possessions, just turnovers. And also another thing that I think is worth noting, and you mentioned, like, it looked like a game that Syracuse circled and Duke didn't. I mean, there were 4 or 5 times, and it wasn't like Duke wasn't shooting with backup, but they got outrun by Cuse pulls to the end line. And that's a turnover, right?
Yeah.
It might not show up in the stats as a turnover, but that's a turnover, gives Cuse extra possessions. Those are huge momentum plays, right? When your pulls are beating Duke attackmen out for backups, it totally sucks the life out of you. Yeah.
No, I think that's a big Petro thing too. I remember Hopkins pulls doing that, notoriously doing
gunning
that.
Gunning to the end line. Yeah.
It was like a stick goes back, the closest guys fly into where that shot's going. But yeah, one interesting thing that came out of the game was from the announcers, and they were calling, as we were on Snapping Towels last episode, 5 Ivies in the tournament they were talking about.
Yeah,
they said 4 or 5, but
yeah, no, Matt Ward. I'm a big Matt Ward fan. Amazing player, class of 06 from Virginia. I was actually at his national championship game as a senior in Philly. Incredible attackman in his day, great player in the MLL. But yeah, he mentioned, just a brief little mention about the Ivy League before we go into the Tucker Dorotovic goal. But he said, if the Ivy League continues to kind of beat each other, he thinks that it's almost a shoo-in. There are going to be 5 Ivy League teams in the tournament, which is crazy because, we're talking Duke, Cuse. There are usually 5 ACC teams in the tournament, kind of a shoo-in, right? Since the conferences have been realigned, it's like all these guys get in. And he was saying maybe only 3 from the ACC. So that would be just an incredible inversion and a great, obviously, sign of parity for the game, and just a kind of a fresh year, or fresh faces in the tournament would be a lot of fun. But really, the big takeaway from the game, aside from the big Cuse win, was this number 1 Sports Center top 10 goal. Tucker Dorotovic catches it on a fast break at a critical juncture in the game. It wasn't
1 point ball game. Duke
it was a 1-goal game. Yep, it was a 1-goal game. Duke got a look on offense. Could have tied it.
It was a Duke fast break.
Yep,
that got slung to O'Neal coming top side. The trailing Cuse pull gave him the people's elbow from up top, dislodging the ball. Stays on his feet. I don't know how, because O'Neal's a freight train. Picks it up going the other way and hums it to Dorodovic. It wasn't on a rope, I wouldn't say, but put some air on it, and it was handled lefty by Dorodovic to where he could spin around and throw it through his legs with one hand into the Duke goal. Could have turned around and dunked it, but we wouldn't be talking about that.
Pretty incredible goal. Check our Instagram story for it.
Absolutely.
It was a serious goal at a serious time.
Yeah.
And you want to talk about momentum plays. I mean, this kind of cemented the game, honestly. Duke had that fast break. They could have tied it up. Instead,
that would have been interesting.
Instead goes the other way, and Dorodovic throws maybe the goal of the year in the back of the cage to take a 2-goal lead in the fourth quarter.
My jaw hit the floor. I mean, it's not, I'm not like, oh, it's rare that happens. Like it really doesn't happen that often. You see guys playing the game, not tight, but efficient. And you wouldn't say it's the most efficient play. So for him to do that, it was, people were giving Gary a lot of credit.
Yeah, I don't think it's a coincidence that Gary Gates, the head coach, and you see Tucker Dorotovic throwing this at a crucial time.
Yeah, I think it was big that he hit it. I don't think Gary would approve if he didn't hit the goal, but no, it was a immense display of creativity, and what the game needs is plays like that, and it's incredible to see that coming from a player from Portland, Oregon.
Yeah, no doubt. And his kind of running mate for 4 years, Brendan Curry, has been kind enough to join us today. So we're going to kick it to an interview with Brendan Curry so we can dive into this Cuse-Duke game just a little bit more.
Love it.
Okay, joining us is senior midfielder Brendan Curry, a Calvert Hall product and 3-time All-American at Syracuse, registered 2 goals and 1 assist this Saturday in a massive top 10 win against Duke. Brendan, how we doing?
Good.
Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Dude, this is exciting. We've been trying to get Brendan on for a while, and it finally came after a huge win. It's perfect timing. But first, I want to dive into when you fell in love with the game growing up in Baltimore. It's an easy place to do that. So what kind of got you going, and how was that kind of growing up there, and overall picking your high school and stuff like that? Tell us about it.
Yeah. Obviously my dad had a pretty big influence on my lacrosse career growing up. He was my idol. Just from, playing at Cuse. It's where I wanted to go my whole life. So I started playing when I was about 4 or 5. A lot of my friends played like soft stick. And my dad was like, no, you're not going to do that. You're going to play, full pads. And that's where I met the Kelly family and ended up being my coach. So we were on the same team growing up and kind of forged that relationship. Hence, to kind of answer your question of picking Calvert Hall. I from 5 years old, 6, 7, 8, going to watch them play. That's kind of where I always wanted to go to high school.
Kelly Pipeline.
Yeah, Kelly Pipeline, which is weird in Baltimore that you like pick a high school and become a fan of them, but that's just kind of how it works. And I couldn't have been happier with my career at Calvert Hall.
Oh yeah, I'm no stranger to the Baltimore life. You ever hit Moe's Burgers right there?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Hell yeah, dude. That was a Sunday special for me with the milkshakes. That place is next level.
Yeah.
Dude, good times.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you mentioned, the reason why you chose Cuse was because of your dad. For our listeners that don't know, Brendan's dad was a 3-time All-American at Cuse. Did you watch like highlights of your dad growing up, or what's the deal? He just had old war stories that made you just have to go to Cuse?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's those old YouTube videos that are kind of resurfacing now of like they have the full games of like the 87.
It's epic.
Yeah. So me and him have watched those. This is the craziest story that I have of like my family in Syracuse Lacrosse is when I was like probably like 7 or 8, Roy Simmons Jr. came to my house with my dad. I think it was like the lacrosse convention that's down in Baltimore. So
coaches convention.
Yeah, coaches convention.
Yep.
And he brought me into the office after we had dinner. And Roy III, who's our coach now, was there as well. And I saw him, I looked me in the eye, and I had no idea. I was so young. And he gave me a pin and told me that I was the firstborn son of my dad, obviously, and I was meant to come to Syracuse. So that was kind of like the first time where I was like, oh, wow, like that's so cool. I've had the pin forever. My dad has it, but that was my first memory of Syracuse Cross. And kind of from then on, it was my absolute dream, complete diehard fan of the Orange.
Dude, that's a badass story. That might be a little illegal recruiting, though. Classic Cuse situation. I don't know what line that toes, but sounds a little bit edgy. Yeah. But getting into recruiting, obviously Desco was the first coach that actually recruited you as a young adult, and then you played for him for pretty much a 10-year, and now you got Gary, the legend. So talk about those two guys and kind of differences, similars. Obviously Gary's the women's coach, so they were in each other's office. There had to be not too much turnover, but just it's different when he's got the reins. Talk a little bit about the differences between the two.
Yeah. Growing up, obviously a Syracuse fan, knowing both of them and kind of, what they meant to the program. So to be able to play for Coach Desko, one of the greatest coaches of all time, was awesome and learned so much from him. And, now that we have Coach Gate, it's like he's the greatest player.
Coach Gate.
You call him Coach Gate?
We do. Yeah, it's actually funny. Coach Petromal is a big, it's like very military, and a lot of the girls would call him Gary. And I knew him as Gary just from them. So I remember I was on the phone with Coach Petromal and I was like, yeah, Gary. And he's like, no. Like, calling him Coach Gate. So it slips sometimes, but I gotta start calling him Coach Gate. But he's awesome and very laid back. And if I was to call him Gary, he wouldn't bat an eye at it, or anyone on our team. But he's just very go with the flow. And whenever he's speaking on the offensive side, it's everyone's listening. And I think everyone has taken away a few things that he's taught us, and especially in my game, just like taking an extra step or increasing your angle, and kind of putting yourself in a position to score at all times, is like his biggest thing to talk about with our team. Is like everyone's got to be a goal scorer, so put yourself in a position to be a goal scorer.
Absolutely. I love that. And going to Petra, and college lacrosse, even in high school, there's like this notorious like offensive coach versus defensive coach. They play 6-on-6 in practice, and the offensive coach, you run your things and you get so familiar with the offensive players, the defense can kind of take advantage of some things and, do little knick-knacky things that throw off the rhythm of the offense. And the offensive coach wants to see that rhythm and see the product that it produces, that the opponent you're playing is not going to know it's going to happen and stuff. And maybe the defense comes out slashing a little too hard and starts trying to injure guys a little bit. And the defensive coach just doesn't care ever. It's like what they want. And especially Petra. I know it, dude. I know it's what he wants. Do Gary and Petra ever get into it at practice when some stuff like that happens, or?
Not really. But Coach Petro definitely, because we'll sit in on defensive film, he'll have all the omitties. So we kind of get both sides. Like he's like, we want you guys hitting and slashing and whatever, all that stuff in practice because it translates to the game. And then we're sitting there in film and we're like, yeah, that's like, we're going to be.
No, thanks.
It's funny just to hear it from him.
Yeah.
We'll see, but our defense is, he's just one of the greatest coaches I've ever had in my life. So it's pretty cool to be able to have him for my final year.
So Gary never steps in and is like, how about we play lacrosse and not try to play football today after a tough loss?
I would say probably in fall ball, it was a little bit more, we were going after each other.
Mm-hmm.
And then, towards the spring, I think the D guys kind of understand that roster isn't that big. So we kind of need some.
Got to preserve each other. You've had some injuries too.
Yeah, fingers crossed that we can
get whacked all Saturday.
Did Petro recruit you in high school?
No, he did not.
Really?
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit, joked back and forth, but
that's pretty funny. I think you were the 12th midfielder in the country coming out of high school, and being a local kid, I'm surprised he didn't go after you.
I was obviously not a big fan of Hopkins.
Sure.
Like, the rivalry there with me growing up was pretty fierce. So
I mean, Petro's classes he brought in during your years, and at least the years I was getting recruited, and probably the past almost decade were sus. And like they just weren't good. They just weren't the players he should be. I'm just gonna say it. Let's not beat around the bush here. So it's no slight on you that he didn't recruit you. I don't know what Benson and him were doing on summers, but clearly it was more vacationing than recruiting and just taking the top recruits he thought. Moving on though.
Yeah, no, moving on though. Like, look, you go into this Duke game, right? You're playing Duke, top 10 matchup. 3-5 is a lot different than 4-4, right? So this is almost, a must win for you guys. Like, how meaningful is this win, and how does it set you up for this massive tilt against Notre Dame?
Yeah, I mean, it was honestly just like such a relief. exactly what you just said, like 4-4 versus 3-5 with that first ACC win was just a massive for our team. And just like couldn't have come at like a perfect time going into this stretch of, Notre Dame. Then we go at Albany to Cornell, UNC, back to UVA to Notre Dame. So it's like just a gauntlet. So be able to like have this win kind of carry us forward. And I feel like we kind of just needed that win against an opponent that we could kind of be like, all right, like now we're back in this thing. Coach Petra,
Totally.
like, you get 1 or 2 wins now. Your record doesn't really matter. And however you're feeling matters. And that's kind of what we're riding on right now. Obviously trying not to think about the 4 losses, but just the win last week and obviously get that out of our system.
Keep it rolling. Hell yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, a big win was obviously Tucker Doradovic's play. He went off. As he's been doing this year, you and him are lightning in a bottle. And, as soon as it pops off, it does. And he was your running mate for a long time. And he was kind of an invert attackman. You could slowly see the progression of Gary moving him down to attack. I don't think it was a shock to anyone who really watches Cuse Lacrosse. It was almost like he was not wanting to be down there, but, a lot of teams give you the pull and he has the shorty. So why not put him behind and let him spin? Talk to us about how that transition's been. Has it been smooth, or do you wish he kind of came up to give you some relief at the midfield, or is it just easy to have him on the field the whole game?
Yeah. I think it's great just to have him on the field at all times. He's definitely probably not like a natural lefty attackman, which he has to play right now. Just with the injuries that we've had. But I mean, he's basically unguardable. If you think about it, like lefty, righty is basically even. He's dodging a close defender up top for the most part. So, he's getting his hands free. He has the rollback, which no one can seem to stop still after 4 years. It's just like, it's fun to play with him, honestly. And it was awesome playing with him for 4 years or 3 years at midfield, but just for our team, I think having him on the field and kind of demanding the ball on that left side. And then, if me or Siebold or someone's on the right side, I just think it's a great balance to have for the entirety of the game.
Oh, hell yeah. It looked like your whole offense was really clicking against Duke. Is that kind of you guys have been waiting to click and that was the product? Because sometimes it's been a little stagnant, like let's get the ball up top to Curry and watch him run, and then we're all stand and then we'll move at one time. And against Duke, you guys came out swinging it back and forth across the 8, and it really showed, making those Duke defensemen move, and it really created a lot of opportunities. Was that some game plan, or was that what you guys have just been working towards and now it's finally like clicking, like, oh, we might need to start playing like this?
Yeah, I think it's probably a little bit of both. Coach March is one of the best minds in lacrosse, in my opinion. I think he was starting to kind of figure out who's going to be on the field and what their best role is. So like, we're finally starting to get a lot of guys comfortable with playing. We have a lot of young guys. Tyler Cordes is a true freshman. Mateo Corsi is a true freshman. But you kind of see them, especially in the Duke game, in a huge ACC, battle, like them kind of step in their roles. Cordes was dishing the rock, and then Mateo obviously took it twice on his own. So it's great to see those guys, and that just helps kind of the confidence and, swinging the ball to those guys now and knowing that they're going to produce some points. And but yeah, the offense is definitely starting to come together, which is exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. You guys have a lot of talent that makes it really exciting to watch. You mentioned the assistant offensive coach, or the offensive coordinator, Pat Murch. I noticed at the timeout call by Petro in the first quarter, he had some expressions on his face, and it was, I won't say running his mouth, but talking a lot with Coach Gate on the matter, and Petro was so locked in. I don't even know if he had eyes on the clock. Yeah. He just didn't like the flow on what was happening on defense. What was kind of brought in that offensive huddle on that timeout? Was it all game plan, or was it like, we'll talk to you guys in literally less than a
0.3 seconds
they can't
when we
score.
get to the quarter break?
Yeah, that was kind of funny just because, and that's how Coach Petrov was like, if there's 3 seconds on the clock, like that timeout, is perfect. And off the end line at the end of a quarter, if you have the timeout, why not use it? So that's probably what he was thinking. But yeah, it was funny. It was like Coach Mark was just like, all right, well, we'll break it down, and then I'll see you guys during the quarter. But yeah, no, that was both guys were just so competitive, and it was funny. I did definitely chuckle at that.
Yeah,
Cool,
I got
cool.
a good laugh as well.
Well, enough on the field talk. What's the hottest song in the locker room right now?
Hottest song. I will say our locker room is all over the place with music. We have so many DJs on our team that connect to our.
Too many cooks in the kitchen.
Oh yeah. Depending on who's in there at what time, I don't even know if I could say, but
let's go with you. What gets you fired up pre-game that maybe would be on your headphones or you'll be like, hey buddy, toss this on. This is going on.
My friends make fun of me actually, but I listen to like the most I listen to like Lumineers, Mumford & Sons before the game.
Dude, let's go. I love that.
All the way up until coach comes in. If I have my choice, I put my headphones in, and that's kind of when I just like relax and try not to get too hyped up. Coach Kelly actually always had us listen to some chill music in the locker room before. And his big thing was you don't get pumped up 30 minutes before the game. So I kind of wait until the warm-up tape to get fired up, but it's kind of my.
All right. So you wait for the stadium pumping it. Do you guys create that mix as like a senior class? Do you guys put a mix together or what?
Yeah, that's how it's been in the past. And then we actually had a kid, Danny Varello. He did it last year and he wanted to do it again. So we're just like, yeah, it's perfect. So
Danny V on the beats.
Danny V on the beat. So he put that together for us.
So what's the song off there that you're like, all right, this one's a banger. I could rock with this. Oh no, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I suck at this segment. I'm not. I really like.
It's all good.
I'm telling you, like before a game, I don't really.
This guy's locked
much.
in.
You're blacked out.
To, like,
You're blacked out. Let's just say it. You're blacked
really.
out.
So I don't even know if I could tell you.
I like to listen to relaxing music before the games too. A little Kygo, some slow Kygo was kind of my go-to.
Look at you guys. That's nice.
Yeah, my heart already would be through the roof. So the music now before I'd pass out by the time game comes.
So every game, every ESPN game, which you guys do plenty of, comes up either in the first quarter, second, third, maybe even fourth. They might throw it in. Your cooking ability is a popular topic of conversation. Is that something you picked up in quarantine, or have you been doing that for 4 years and people just started noticing?
Yeah, that was kind of like my sophomore year. We moved into apartments. So I lived in Seabold. I've actually lived with him all 5 years. So I started cooking and ended up making a page just thinking that I would just post and it would be my friends following it. And then I'm close with the Carcateras, so Paul got his hands on the Instagram account, and
Of course he did.
kind of blew up from there.
Hell yeah! So you're cooking, you're baking too. You bake as well.
Yeah. I started making bread. Extremely random.
No, I love that.
Not random at all.
What kind of are you doing? A sourdough, or what kind of bread are you getting into?
Yeah, sourdough. I did bagels for a while. I kind of go in phases of bread, baguette.
So baguettes, do you have the baguette tray that gives you the little dots on the bottom when you bake it, or are you just going a flat baguette and it's just more of a shape? Flat. Yeah, more of a shape thing. And now when if I don't have
to buy anything, I buy it. I just go bare bones.
I like that too. Do you
when you have chicks over, do you make them a loaf of bread?
Yeah. I actually have a girlfriend, but she does like my bread too.
Nice.
Good save. Are you weighing out this flour and the yeast and everything on a scale? Or are you doing teaspoons, or is it just all feel for Chef Curry, like on the field in the kitchen, you're just throwing things together?
Yeah, I go with the scale because with like especially like something with like flour, it's sometimes you take a scoop with a cup and it doesn't necessarily mean that there's a full cup in there. So I learned that from my mom actually.
Nice. You make
Love
homemade
that.
pasta too with flour and eggs?
I haven't done pasta, but I do want to do pasta. I'm if you saw the kitchen I was working with, there's not much space.
I don't even want to imagine. Oh
Yeah.
God, it takes you back. Is there a guy in the locker room that kind of keeps it loose that, on snapping towels, we love the guy that's kind of able to keep people relaxed, mess around a little bit, whether it's, tight game or blowout, or after a hard practice. Who's the guy in there that's always easy to joke around with and keeps it light?
Dorotovic, 100%.
Oh,
Which
yeah.
is probably
Okay,
I would think that people probably wouldn't expect that from him, just based on people that I've talked to. But that kid is absolutely hilarious. Does not shut up ever. So it's funny seeing him. He's actually serious during the game, but
Yeah, it looks like he wants to rip someone's head off in between the lines. I would not picture that. I was not going to guess that. That's awesome, though.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have a big upcoming weekend. Anything, any preparation talked about that yet?
Yeah. We watched some film today and just getting ready. They're definitely have been our one of our biggest opponents over the past couple of years. And, they had our way with us last year, especially the Kavanaughs. So it'll be interesting to see what this year's team brings. And, it's always exciting getting out of Cuse. Unfortunately, South Bend's not much nicer than Syracuse. So it's not like you're going down to Duke or UVA, but it's still exciting to be able to play them right after Duke. It's like, how could you not want to play in these games?
Hell yeah. That's why you go to Cuse, right?
Yep, exactly.
Dude,
Love
this
that.
has been killer. I'm excited to watch you guys this weekend carry this momentum offensively. And hopefully we get you on later in the season, have some big wins to talk about.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you guys for having me on. This is a blast.
I appreciate you coming on. Keep doing your thing, Brendan.
Brendan Curry, everybody.
Thank you.
Big time. Great time chatting with Brendan right there. What a good guy. And I'm excited to see where Cuse goes the rest of the year. I think they're gelling offensively and could put together a string in the ACC tournament. No doubt.
Yeah, they're coming together at the right time. Should be fun. Another team coming together at the right time, off to the best start in program history. I think tied for the best start back in the early 1970s. The Rutgers Scarlet Knights absolutely dismantled what we all thought was a really good Ohio State team. Maybe they still are, but Rutgers is on a different level.
Yeah. Ohio State had a humbling game versus Rutgers. I think Ohio State has the pieces to play them again in a tighter game. I think
Definitely.
On a Sunday in Weatherford, the foghorn was going at that stadium, and it just can pile on you. Rutgers is a gritty in between the lines, don't make a lot of mistakes in those areas. And we haven't talked about him enough, if at all. But last year he got a lot of praise in the tournament when Rutgers had arguably a better team roster-wise with Charlon Beatties and Kirst and everything. But CJ Kirst in goal was a monster for that team. And he's a bigger monster for this
Colin
team.
Kirst.
Colin Kirst. Sorry.
Yeah,
CJ
Kirst
the
is
brother.
an attackman at Lehigh. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a brother at Lehigh. True. They beat him in that tournament. It was like a whole Kirst family reunion, which was cool to see. But Colin Kirst was lights out and will continue to be lights out through the Big Ten tournament, which makes Rutgers a way more dangerous team than just some like your traditional Rutgers team. When you add a bear of a goaltender, arguably a first team All-American, it puts them in another bracket of scary when you see them in a playoff.
Yeah, really, the sky's the limit. Anything can happen with a hot goaltender. And Colin Kirst is exactly that. I mean, it's pretty incredible. Rutgers goes from defense to offense pretty much as well as anybody. The kid makes every save he's supposed to make, and then he'll rob a few and hits outlets. Looks like a reincarnation of Quint Kesnick. I mean, hitting outlets beautifully, maybe for our listeners who are more familiar, but kind of John Galloway-esque and an incredible outlet goalie.
Yeah, quick.
Hitting streaking midfielders quickly, not making a save, taking a few breaths, taking a few steps, stepping out of the crease, hitting an adjacent defenseman kind of on the lower part of the field and setting up your clear. No, he's looking to generate offense, and the Rutgers offense capitalizes. Yeah, they capitalize in odd man situations, traditional fast break situations, and also even in Ryan Boyle. Ryan Boyle was on the call here, an all-time cerebral player, 4-time All-American at Princeton, Rookie of the Year in both the MLL and NLL, 3-time Team USA guy, one of the best lacrosse resumes ever. But he was known as one of the smartest tackmen to ever play the game. And he brought up a really good point is when Rutgers is moving in transition, a lot of teams, if they don't have numbers, will kind of pull it out, right? And say, all right, we don't have numbers. We're just going to get into our 6-on-6 and kind of run our sets. If Rutgers is 4-on-4 or 5-on-5, they are green light all the time. And that's so refreshing to see, because anything lower than 6-on-6 in an even man situation is a great time to go to the rack because there's more space. And Rutgers in the 4-on-4 and the 5-on-5 is as good as I've seen in a long time. So it's really fun to watch.
Yeah, I think that honestly caught Ohio State off guard.
Totally. Mm-hmm.
And they weren't ready for it. They weren't ready to communicate through those. When they do get a break, Mitch Bartolo flicks that pill like nothing. It looks like he's barely trying, and it's just humming. Also, back to the comment of him being drafted, he better be in the first round or two for a pro roster.
Me, he's a first round pick. He's a first round pick to me. I feel like I don't see him on the big boards.
No, we need to get someone on that can talk about that with us, because I don't understand it. But yeah, Rutgers dominated on the faceoff. They dominated in goaltending, and with that, and their defense is bones. You're not going to get. You got to earn every goal against the Rutgers team. It's been the case for a lot of years, and now it's just they had a great game plan. They didn't do anything that was special. They played Ohio. They knew Ohio State better than Ohio State knew Rutgers.
Yeah, totally. And Rutgers has serious athletes up and down the roster. I mean, the final score here was 18-7, right? It wasn't 14-8. They beat them soundly. They absolutely spanked them. In the first 27 minutes of the game, it was actually a pretty close game. It was back and forth. I think it was like 5-4, and then Rutgers went on a 4-goal run in the last 3 minutes of the first half, and it never looked back. I mean, absolutely just dominated from there on out.
Ronan Jacoby had a sick little fake down the lefty alley.
He's nasty. He's really silky.
Toe drag. He's a great player that complements a great midfield line, and
great lefty.
And Scott at X is the ultimate X attackman you'd want. Nothing too crazy. Moves the ball, doesn't let it die in his stick, and finds shooters. And they've got shooters. So Rutgers in the Big Ten.
I think they're a legit Final Four contender, personally.
I might disagree. I might not go that far. I think they had a amazing day shooting the ball in this outing. They didn't miss many shots, and some days that can happen. I think with Kirsten, if their faceoff kid continues to produce, I don't know if the Rutgers guy is anything special. Doesn't really seem like it, but I think as the stakes get higher and these games get bigger, we'll see what they do against Maryland. That would be a good tender. They play Maryland tight. I'm with you, but it's one of those things where it was definitely their day, and that made the score a little more lopsided. I could see that being at Ohio State and being the exact opposite score. It seemed like that kind of thing. Bobby Van Buren had a great game. He was stripping guys left and right.
He's really good. He's going to be an excellent 4-year player for them. He already looks like he's like kind of got PLL written all over him.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Really
great
good.
feet.
Super
physical.
solid.
Yeah. So it's just, it was their day. And when your momentum's like that, you're winning faceoffs, your offense, sees a soccer goal. It's hard to kind of run with that when it's make it, take it, and they're scoring every time. So, a game that was similar early like that was Virginia Notre Dame, which was kind of a bummer. It was a game we both had circled, and it ended up being kind of flat.
I think everybody had it circled. Another kind of stinker from the Irish in a big game. Huge bounce back win for the Who's, right? I mean, coming off a kind of a shellacking against Maryland, they felt like they probably kind of needed to come out and make a
We
statement.
talked about that last week, how it's kind of a tough card to pull for Notre Dame with UVA coming off.
Yeah, kind of coming into a buzzsaw. And I think for UVA, you know, after kind of a standalone game, what wasn't exactly standalone, but I think it was like a 4 p.m. game on Saturday. Most of the games that already taken place. It was at this neutral site on Fox Sports against Maryland. A lot of eyes on the game for them to get kind of embarrassed, right? Yeah. I think coming back and beating a Notre Dame team soundly, you know, you kind of insert that Aaron Rodgers press conference clip, like, relax, you know.
Yeah.
Like they're fine. They're going to be totally fine. Schellenberger had the game by the balls as always. It was really just it was
crazy. I told Cam when we were watching that game, I think he's probably the best attackman that has gone through Virginia, and he's going to be up there with the points and the goals and the assists. It's the efficiency for me and the unguardableness. There's no Steele Stanwick's up there. There's tons of UVA, Danny Gladding. I could probably go on a longer list, but I think not by far, but
it's not by far.
I don't want to disrespect the other ones, but like in terms of, he's got the whole package: shooting, knockdown.
In terms of his ability,
shooting, knockdown, quickness like Mikey Powell, elusiveness, getting other people involved, his feel of the game. It's a pleasure to watch. Unfortunately, Notre Dame was down some defensemen due to injury. That was not good and kind of hurt them early. And then their offense going back to their early season woes of just like, what are you doing? Like, what pass is that? You know, just sloppy.
Yeah, no rhythm
play.
And no rhythm. And another kind of like, you know, the game was 12-8. It was another kind of just too little, too late run from them. I think it was 10-3 at one point, like relatively late in the game. It really wasn't as close as 12-8. Virginia absolutely dominated this game. Kind of surprising because it was the first game of the year when Notre Dame did well at the faceoff X. They were 63% from the faceoff X, which they've been pretty much the opposite of that all year long. Something tells me P. LaSala is not 100% healthy. His percentage is down, and also he doesn't quite look like P.D. LaSala week in and week out. He's not starting fast breaks. He's not bringing the juice like he has in years past. I think there's a nagging injury there. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't mind to see him sit for a few weeks. You know, we'll see how that goes.
It also doesn't help getting the offense going when Matt Nunes comes back from the Maryland game and has a statement Matt Nunes game with 71%. It was Nunes. Two
of the best goalies in the country on display here. You know,
young,
got to give love to Entenmann too.
Entenmann might be a junior now.
Entenmann, I think, is a junior. Yeah, but obviously Nunes, a freshman out of Texas. These two guys are as good as it gets between the pipes. Nunes got the better of Entenmann, I would say, on Saturday. But yeah, it's really impressive for a freshman goalie to come back the next week after getting kind of shelled, right, by a very, very good Maryland team. You know, that can go one of two ways for a freshman keeper, right? You can really kind of shatter your confidence, or you can come back, you know, with a bounce back game.
Worried. It doesn't seem like he ran Bobby Gavin out of town. It's his team for 4 years. Totally. He's skilled, and he made it rain. And you rarely see a goalie up in the 71%, especially against an offense that has the capability like Notre Dame.
Yeah, I mean, when's the last time a Notre Dame
it was an
opponent went 71%?
The weather wasn't there for the Who's fans. Unfortunately, it was a little rainy or something, a little cold and grim.
Yeah, no, it was not nice. It actually snowed for some of the game. It was pretty gross all over the East Coast this weekend. There wasn't a single game that I had on that had sunny skies. So it was just all just gray and cloudy and either rainy or snowy. So
yeah, I mean, another burner that was also gray was Cornell at Penn, and I thought it was a good game. I wish Cornell hopped out offensively a little faster. They kind of credit to Penn. Their pulls are maniacs, and they really took a lot of possessions away from Cornell. But I think Cornell was a little stunned early. Like they took the first jab once they got their feet under them, they produced a little more, but Penn's a bear.
Penn,
At home
yeah,
it's just God, they hit
at
you from
Franklin Field.
everywhere.
Yeah,
They don't stop. They are a really good lacrosse team. Very impressed. Cam's been calling it since week 1. I'm on the train now.
Sam Hanley, I don't care what Nakai Montgomery says, Sam Hanley is the midfielder of the year at this point. He is incredible. We need to check this or get to the bottom of this. And obviously, by episode 9, we should know this, but we hold ourselves accountable. I haven't seen Sam Hanley on any big boards. I know he is listed. I know he's listed as a senior.
Yeah.
But I think might have some COVID eligibility or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure he's got the game completely figured out. It's almost like he's already graduated from the college game. I mean, he's just on a different level physically.
Dude.
Clearly the game's moving slowly for him at this point, and he can bring it from 15 yards. It's incredible.
On the run with a defenseman in his jersey.
Lefty and righty.
He had one lefty runner that was sick. Jump shot.
Unbelievable.
With the guy draped on him that just looked like he's playing with younger kids because he's a foot taller than everyone. He sees the field well. He's not afraid to slide a skip pass in there too. That might not be off a slide, but it creates then angles for his teammates to get in better situations off dodges and stuff, which is not talked about, doesn't come up in the stat sheet, but is a huge piece of the offense. So
and doesn't allow off-ball defensemen to hedge at all, right? To hedge on a slide or a 2 slide or a 3 slide, right? They have to be in their guys' mitts the entire time Sam Hanley has the ball, because he's not afraid to throw a skip from anywhere to anyone. He's a lot of fun to watch. Another guy, Dylan Gergar, he had 1 and 4. He's just such a silky smooth attackman. 1 week he'll have 4 and 1. The next week he has 1 and 4. He's a great shooter, great goal scorer, also has great vision, has no problem taking a number 1 pole to the rack or drawing a slide off number 1 pole. He's just deceptively very, very good, very effective.
Yeah. And your breakout player of the week last week, getting 3 goals, continuing his production, and it seems like he loves every shot he sees now. So
yeah, no, he's cemented as that third attackman on the left-hand side.
You'd love to see that if you're a Penn fan. I will say, not to stroke Penn too much and just dog Cornell, but CJ Kirst is unguardable. Showed that Penn had a really tough time. He was unfortunately mostly just him. He went 3 and 2. Michael Long had a decent day of 2 and 3, but the offense was mostly created off CJ Kirst, which, Yeah.
Cornell has really put together a nice year offensively. Seems like every time, I watch them or I look at a box score, it's like just filled up with a bunch of guys.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't so much like that this week. Kirst definitely kind of led the show for them. I'm actually looking for the box score right now. Kyle, not sure if you have it up.
I got it. John Patelli, he had a great game. He had 4 goals. He was everywhere off ball that Kirst and Long needed him to be. But our guy, the party starter, Malacardi, he had 1 assist. He wasn't that big time piece that he was the week prior. Yeah. Getting a lot of assists and beating guys straight 1-on-1. I give that credit to UPenn. Helping, supporting their short sticks, but also having dominant short stick D middies that we've seen with our boy Piper Bond, first team all name killer.
Yeah, Piper Bond is all over the place. Talk about another big body out there. Again, just the amount of kind of nice sized athletes that kind of jump off the screen when watching Penn. It really feels like you're watching, a classic ACC team. Huge, it's a huge statement.
They're also skilled. It's it's just an interesting thing. It's great, but I thought one notable thing that was kind of interesting, how Penn just get such efficient shots and they swing the ball so well, and their shooters, like Cameroon in particular, has an unorthodox release. It's really whippy and he lets it hang, and it kind of put Chase Erland in a little bit of a pickle, and they're getting shots from great spots. And then Sam Hanley also. So he's seen this whole range of shoots, guards going low to high, Rubens off his ear, putting it top left. And then you have Hanley just stroking high to low shots from 15 that he can't see. So
I'm going to give a little credit here to Mike Abbott. I'm going to give a little credit to Mike Abbott, their offensive coordinator.
Yeah, cheers. He's got the weapons, and kudos to him for putting all these kids on the field in the right spots. But yeah, Penn's dangerous. Chase Erland is still probably the goalie of the league in the Ivy League, but he just had a tough day. It's hard. I mean,
everyone's having a tough day against Penn. I mean,
Penn team, yeah.
Penn continues to light up good defenses and great goalies. Last week doing it to Eric Peters in a losing effort, but they put up 20 goals against Princeton last week.
At the end of the day, Penn's going to be an absolute bear to handle in the Ivy League, as well as the other big Ivy League matchup this week we had in New Haven, Connecticut. Yale v Princeton, a big circle on the snapping towels calendar.
Yeah, I honestly, Yale, really impressive win from Yale. Matt Brandow, in my opinion, is the best player that nobody is talking about. I think, there have been so many great performers all year across the college across landscape, particularly at the attack position and in the Ivy League. People are kind of forgetting about Matt Brandow, what he did in the national championship game as a freshman, and now he's a senior attackman for Yale. 5-3 this weekend with a disgusting backhanded goal at a critical juncture. Really, really like what I'm seeing out of Yale.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff came out of Yale. The new stadium, I keep mentioning, I'm not going to get over it. I got to see it in person. I'm excited for that day. But a lot of contributors from Yale having a lot of points. Leo Johnson finally really figuring it out, having 2 goals. Saw Chris Lyons is also a freshman. He had 3. He's got a nice stick on him. He really came
on last week in the fourth quarter against Cornell in their big run to almost tie that game up. I think they were down 5 or 6 goals going into the fourth quarter last week against Cornell. I think Chris Lyons had like 2-1 in their 5 or 6 goal run to bring that to a tight game. So he's really figuring it out and is a great piece. Really nice sized kid.
Yeah, Yale's a bear to handle at home, and Princeton, the main or their usual suspects were held in check, and that's a credit to Yale's defense finally stepping up and having a game they can kind of stamp as in film as this is what we want to do. This is how we want to play angles and force people down the alley, not letting guys get to the middle of the field, which Princeton does so well. And also their goalie, Jack Starr, who won a national championship, was benched, is now playing again. He's a great goalie, and if he can get hot, I wouldn't want to see Yale in the Ivy League tournament at all.
Yeah, so actually, Kyle, Jared Paquette is their goaltender right now. He had 19 saves.
Oh, they benched. This game. Oh, I thought Starr was playing.
Yeah, no, this
kid's a freshman. Now. He's a freshman.
He is a sophomore.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, he had 19 saves in a massive game.
Good start. Good start, Kyle.
Jesus. No, we all get things wrong. No. I mean, this kid Jared Paquette went absolutely off and
ham set 19 saves.
Yeah, and to come off, it's incredible. Like these Ivy League teams put together these massive W's the week before. You think they're going to start to get 2-3 in a row. Princeton has this epic game, 21-20 against Penn. Comes to New Haven and loses a 14-12 battle, and Yale's goalie puts up 19 saves. So really, nobody is safe.
Unfortunately, it was a little bit of a grim day. I wish it was
grim day everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a theme, but I wish it was a sunny day in the spring in New Haven. That nothing better than that for the crowd and for that new stadium. And obviously, a great win. They probably would take that grim day over a sunny day for a lot of reasons, but especially because they came out with a win. So cheers to Yale.
Yeah, totally. Another team in the Ivy League who's definitely poised to make some noise, and we've been pretty impressed with, particularly on the offensive side this year, is Brown. They really got they got kind of put in their place this weekend. Kyle called this last week in our quick picks. UMass Brown.
Yes,
Kyle
sir.
called the upset here. UMass. UMass is clearly the team to beat in the CAA. We'll see if my Blue Hens has something to say about that. But really kind of a lower scoring game here, a type of score we don't see as much these days, 10-7. Brown's offense never really got going. Again, UMass's defense, full of mass holes, is really, really tough.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin
UMass
Tobin
is
had
kind
a
of due for this
day.
upset. Yeah.
Kevin Tobin 4-1. He's usually a feeder. He crushed it. He was liking everything he saw. I think maybe Brown, we might have to get an insider on this Brown team, but maybe they don't like a little ratty UMass team coming to show them, give them a little strong arm and see if they can handle it. Because it seemed like none of their offensive players with Brown wanted anything to do with a UMass poll.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. UMass polls are really big. They were, and Brown's attackmen, while really, really good, we've been kind of pumping them up all year. They're a little bit smaller in stature, maybe just not a great matchup for the Brown Bears. But UMass was kind of due for this upset. They played Yale really close. I think they lost in overtime to Yale. So clearly UMass is good. UMass can play with almost anybody. I think they'd be a tough first round draw in the NCAA tournament. I think UMass, also one thing to know about UMass is they're a very old team, very senior laden. All three attackmen are seniors. You talked about Kevin Tobin with 4-1. Gabriel Prochik had 3-1. And then Logan Lilsberg, the third attackman, had 3 assists, right? So all three of these guys are seasoned veterans. They got big defensemen. They got a great coach in Canella, who's been there since, forever. I think they have all the makings for a deep run in the CAA, right? They could be the conference champion and really give somebody some fits in the first round. Different situation in another conference, the Patriot League. Obviously the Ivy League games in the regular season are extremely important, jockeying for the NCAA tournament. But in the Ivy League, in the Patriot League, the host of the conference tournament goes to the number 1 seed. So these in-season battles are massive when it comes to jockeying for seeding and the right and privilege to host the tournament. This Army Loyola game, massive game for tournament hosting implications. Army with a massive W here. Brendan Nichtern, to me, was the best player on the field, seemingly running away with Patriot League Player of the Year at this point with another 3-goal and 4-assist performance.
Yeah, it was one of those games that Loyola's had a couple times this year. Rutgers, Hopkins, Towson for sure. They had control of the game and almost let off the gas in the fourth quarter, and it was Army's fourth quarter the whole time. There wasn't. Loyola picked a great quarter to stop hitting shots and to stop getting stops on defense. So it was, I'm not gonna say a choke job because Army played a hell of a game to stay in it when Loyola was hot, but Loyola had all the momentum, the home crowd. It was a great day out there at Ridley, and then all of a sudden Army's still in the mix in the fourth quarter and Loyola lets off the gas, comes up with some empty possessions, some shot clocks, and then you have just missed shots. A lot
of empty possessions late for the Hounds.
Dude, killing me with that shit. And you just see Army just not, they don't let off the gas. And for Loyola to learn this lesson now is good because, it would have been nice to come out with a win here, but I think you could take a loss, still win out in the Patriot League, and then the head-to-head arguments up in the air because of Army's loss to Lehigh. So you still have a shot at hosting. It's not all as lost, but
the hosting privileges are wide open in the Patriot League right now.
They gotta step up in terms of closing out games. Yeah,
no, Loyola needs to rack up some wins here. I mentioned Brendan Nichtern, but also Army's got some other really, really good options. You got Bobby Abshire and Reese Burek out of the midfield. Both of them had hat tricks on Saturday. Army's a complete team. I don't think anybody's dying to see Army in the NCAA tournament.
No, but shout out to Bailey Savio for getting a NCAA record, beating his brother for 704 faceoff wins.
Awesome.
Which is quite the stat from the town. But another Patriot League game, moving on, Georgetown Lehigh was a brutal broadcast, sitting at the third row, the other side of the field. It was ridiculous camera placement. You couldn't see the other half of the field pretty much the whole time. Yeah, Georgetown got up quick. Lehigh trickled back to make it look like it was a game. Georgetown ended up winning by 4 goals. Never really thought it was close. What do you think?
Honestly, so correction there, and not a big difference, but it was a 3-goal game. 14-11 was the final score. Honestly, I was kind of impressed with Lehigh here. I think they had a nice showing for themselves.
2 corrections.
Lehigh coming off a big win last week against Army. I think Lehigh's pretty good. We talk a lot about Army and Loyola on this show. I think they both earned praise and respect, but the Patriot League, I think, is a legitimate 14 league this year. I think Lehigh's better than people thought. And I think people thought they're going to be very good coming in, but they had some crucial injuries at the midfield in the preseason that kind of set the team back, particularly early in the year. But Lehigh's good, man. I mean, Lehigh's attack, Cole Kirst, and another Kirst. Who are all these Kirsts? Cole Kirst had 1 and 4. Tommy Schelling. Yeah, Tommy Schelling with 1 and 3. And Christian Mule with 4 goals. That's a real attack unit to put up those numbers against Georgetown. We saw what they did against Army last week. I think Lehigh's a dangerous team in the Patriot League, along with BU, who we haven't talked about almost at all on this show this year. But yeah, I mean, Georgetown's a better team. Kind of a good gritty win for them on the road in the Lehigh Valley. Dylan Watson continues to perform, 5 goals. TJ Haley had 2 and 4. Georgetown, as we know, is a complete team. We've been kind of quiet on them the last few weeks. I think they've had some games where they won games they were supposed to win. It wasn't really worth talking about.
Yeah.
Good gritty win from Georgetown.
Yeah, and Lehigh can make a push in any game and can get possession at any time with Quadzilla.
Quadzilla went 60% at the X. Georgetown is a really good faceoff guy. He's had a great year thus far. It looks like Quadzilla is what he's been cracked up to be and can duke it out with anybody in the country at the X. So again, I think Lehigh is pretty solid, pretty dangerous. Probably missing a few pieces to really be an elite team on the national landscape, but not a team to sleep on in the Patriot League.
Georgetown with a big win over Lehigh. We see some out of conference games still happening. In these next couple of weeks, we're going to see a lot of in-conference games happening, a lot of rivalries in conference. It's going to shake out the tournament a little bit. Let's talk a little bit conferences. How many teams do you think are getting into the tournament now that we're done with the out-of-conference play? Which leagues have really stepped up and cemented themselves at least having 3 or 4? Who do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think the real question is, we'll talk about the Ivy League for a second, but we'll give our listeners a break shortly. The Ivy League, can they get 5 teams in, which would be historical, monumental, whatever word you want to use, insert it there. I remember in 2006, Penn,
Cornell.
Princeton, Cornell, Yale, and Harvard or Brown. Probably Harvard at this point.
I think they're going to get 4 in. I'm not.
It depends on what Harvard does. If Harvard pulls off an upset, if Harvard beats one of those 4 teams, we'll see.
So we'll
see. We'll see what happens.
On snapping towels from Kyle, because I can't speak for Cam. I'm calling 4. I think Ivy gets 4.
Even 4 would be a huge success. I mean, 4. I think 4 is safe to say. 5, I don't think is likely. But as Matt Ward said on the Syracuse broadcast, if these teams beat each other up, and I think he means, if Harvard and Brown can run in that crew, then they might get 5 teams in. I think 4 is pretty safe to say at this point, which is huge. The Ivy League got 4 teams in 2006, and that was a massive deal. It's much harder to do so now with more conferences and more AQs coming from elsewhere. But yeah, I mean, I think 5 teams isn't out of the question. I think 4 is pretty likely at this point. It'd be pretty crazy to see the ACC maybe only get 3 teams in if Notre Dame doesn't get their act together and either Cuse or Duke really falters in this home stretch.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I think a league that's we gotta get back to this, and we've said it before, and we should know the answer, but we got to know if there's an ACC tournament.
There's not. There's no ACC tournament.
That's a bummer. I don't know why they stopped doing that, because
yeah, so it's really odd. Kyle, you can keep riffing on that in a second. I'll pull up this Q schedule that I was looking at.
Yeah,
go ahead.
It's odd because it just comes down to record, and I think the top, let's do 6. You have a playing game, and then you give the top 2 seeds buys, and then they play, and then it just is a way better lacrosse weekend. It adds 2 tournaments. It adds the, obviously the tournament in May that ends in Memorial Day, the NCAA tournament, and then you have your league tournament. I think it's just you shoot for 2. I hate giving it to the team that has the best record in the season. There's no like game 1. I'm like, March Madness is just, there's so much love for March Madness.
A one and done situation is fun. And I'm looking at this Q schedule right now. So we all remember Syracuse getting absolutely obliterated in late February at Klockner. They lost 20-11. They have Virginia on the schedule again for April 23rd, as well as a second Notre Dame game already on the schedule. So I think their way of kind of replacing the tournament, now that they only have 5 teams,
adding some repeat offenders.
Yeah, adding a couple repeat games and probably being on some sort of rotation year to year. Okay, these are who your repeats are going to be. So they play Virginia and Notre Dame twice, which
bizarre.
It's bizarre, but it that could have happened anyway in a tournament. So that's their way of kind of
say they get an upset there. It's a little bit for the NCAA committee to look at it as a win. So it's like, you want to play.
It's a great opportunity for Syracuse. I mean, it's penciled in. What if you missed the ACC tournament and you didn't get to have those games? So I don't know. You could argue that it's a good opportunity for them to add to an NCAA tournament resume.
It's a bummer that they don't have a shakeout tournament, but
it's too bad.
A big tournament that we're going to have our eye on, and that's super interesting to us here at Snapping Towels, is going to be the SoCon this year. It's ripping.
So I've spent the first 3 or 4 episodes talking a lot of SoCon lacrosse. We've really cooled off on them.
Well, their schedules early were badass, and they were playing these great teams.
They really were. And so we had no choice but to talk about them. And then they kind of went in, like the 3 teams that we like so much, Jacksonville, High Point, and Richmond, kind of went into a 3 or 4 week lull of games that really weren't that compelling. And credit to these 3 teams. These 3 teams took care of business in those games. They didn't get upset. They didn't have a letdown. They, aside from the Utah game, the Jacksonville lost to Utah. Utah's a solid squad. So, it's not like they're losing to, School of the Blind or anything. But
never heard of that school.
Now that they're moving into the conference schedule, into the SoCon schedule.
I love it.
High Point and Jacksonville play this weekend, which is a must watch.
Love it.
Richmond actually has an out of massive tilt against Virginia this weekend. So we'll be back on SoCon Lax this weekend and next. Cannot wait to see this High Point Jacksonville game. Can't wait.
Beautiful.
I mean, they could get 2 teams in this year. I do not see the SoCon actually getting 3 teams in, particularly with the Ivy League kind of stuffing up the tournament.
Yeah,
it's probably a 2-team bid, best case scenario. And usually the SoCon's just a 1 AQ, and they're a one and done school. But this is a special year for them, I think.
No, that'd be great. One viral clip that Cam spammed my DMs with was Tufts bench. Very creative. A for effort.
Quite fun. I'm sure it's fun to be on the sideline. Kyle had an interesting take on it immediately when I sent it to him. He said, "I've never seen kids so proud to be on the bench."
It's a little bit of a hardo comment, but like essentially, I still stand with it. I'm like, nice. Like
it's good to
not
see
my
kids.
juice, but I love the enthusiasm for the team and to kind of having the leash to be a little light with it. It's super
Exactly.
hard all the time and super, you can't smile, like, it's just stupid like that sometimes. So cheers to them. And
Yeah.
I stand by my comment, but I do think is a little harsh.
Yeah, no, I don't picture myself being the
Exactly,
ringleader.
not my thing.
I don't picture myself being the ringleader of that. But look, those kids work their ass off in practice every day. If they want to have a little fun on game day, I'm all for it as a fan and even as a coach. If my kids want to have fun on the sidelines, if we're going off and they want to support their teammates who are getting nice on the field, I'm cool with it. And honestly, Tufts always finds a way to get some publicity, right? Honestly, I mean, I can remember in like 2010 when they're coming off their first national championship, they had this epic YouTube video that was
sick, dude.
Bouncing around. Yeah, Kyle, who's significantly younger than I am, remembers it. Like kids were just loving it, and it kind of skyrocketed. It kind of bolted Tufts lacrosse to a different stratosphere. They were probably getting more
Mike
looks.
Daly too.
Totally. Yeah. The current Brown coach. But yeah, they've always been really good on social media, really effective on Instagram.
Great video production.
I have no ties to Tufts lacrosse, and I've been following Tufts lacrosse on Instagram since I've had an Instagram. So kudos to them, and they're clearly thinking outside the box to get kids to come to school. Tufts is a great school with a great program and a great package to sell. And for it to seem like a fun and cool program, I think it's just a feather in the cap. As promised, we are bringing in our women's insider, Maddie Buss, a former all-ACC midfielder for the Duke Blue Devils. Happy to have Maddie on this week and hopefully more. All right, welcoming Maddie Buss, a Duke women's lacrosse alum, class of 2014, one of only 22 players in program history to top the 100-point plateau. She's the current head coach of the women's team at Mira Costa High in Southern California. Maddie, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. This is sweet. We kind of hinted at it a couple episodes ago. We'd hope to get a women's insider on. We were talking a little bit about the women's game, but we're very outspoken about how we don't know enough. And so I'm so happy you're coming on to bless our listeners and us with some knowledge about this women's game. Let's hop right in. There's really two teams we've been watching that have been crushing the competition. Could we talk about them, and what are you seeing from them?
So at the college level, BC and UNC, you're talking about?
Correct. Yes.
I was like, I'm going to guess here. I mean, being a ACC, like I love the ACC, and being a Duke grad, it is hard to say it, but UNC and BC are, I think, just a step above everyone else right now. Maryland is also right up there with them. We'll see what happens when Duke and UNC meet, or Duke and BC. Duke is having a great year too, but UNC and BC, the game I watched was like out of control, fast paced, a lot of goals, a lot of great, awesome plays. Goalies were out of control, making stops, and defense was physical. It was so fast. I couldn't get over it. Made watching games that rest of the week kind of rough for me. I watched all the games on ESPN Plus, like after the fact.
Yeah.
And
you're not alone there.
Yeah, I'm upset. Kind of bad. But I wanted more. I literally couldn't get enough. And Syracuse can usually satisfy my need for speed, but they haven't really played. Have they played UNC? No, they haven't played UNC or BC yet. So I'm excited for that as well. But and my little sister's going to Notre Dame, so I'm trying to give them some hype too. But both of them, like Duke and Notre Dame, played last week and or this past weekend, and it was a tight back and forth game. But again, not to talk badly about my alma mater, but it was. I'm going there this weekend, gonna watch a game.
Oh, that's awesome.
alumni weekend. But yeah, the pace and the IQ and the creativity that the BC and the UNC girls have is just like above and beyond.
So
Can you
Cam, go for
can
it.
you talk to us a little bit about Charlotte North? Like everybody knows about her, right? We see her on Instagram doing things that frankly I've never seen in the women's game. Can you just like tell us a little bit about her and like what she's doing that's so much different?
Yeah, I think so. She's from a non-traditional lacrosse up and coming hotbed. She's from Texas.
Love that.
So, if you ever go on YouTube and you watch her highlights from high school, you'll see from freshman to senior year, it's like a complete transformation. She was at Duke, so that's why I know so much about her. And I think she was really craving like a longer leash on offense, and that's not really what we do at Duke. We do a lot more, more like strict offense, but
Structured sets.
More of a
yeah,
system.
thank you.
Yeah.
And at BC, she was let loose, and she has great mentors at BC. So Sam Apuzzo is the assistant coach, and she, I think, changes the women's game. Her and Dempsey Arsenal, they kind of pushed the boundaries on the offensive side for the girls' game. And I think there's a clip of Sam Apuzzo doing a crease dodge and her defender just like eats it off to the side. And that was her every game. And then so for her to be coaching Charlotte North, who is so hungry for more lacrosse because she didn't have it until later in her life. She wasn't a kid from Long Island playing since she was 2. She was someone who learned it probably in middle school, maybe a little bit before, but she got really good later on. And I think those types of people are just so much more obsessed with the game than someone who's been playing it their whole life, or their dad has played it, or
Totally. A late bloomer has a real
Yeah.
thirst, right?
Yeah,
That's
it's
awesome.
hunger.
and then if you ever look at her forearms,
Oh yeah.
I'm-
Oh,
She's
she's
piped up.
quads and her
Her
forearms.
pretty
legs.
well put together.
Yeah.
she's
I mean, she
ripped.
hums the ball.
like she's figured it out. And then also her knowledge of the actual stick. I'm pretty sure she strings her own sticks. Pretty sure, because I've never like the way they're strung. I'm like, who does that? That's not a gate. That's not.
Is that pretty rare in the women's game for the
Yeah,
player
I
to string
don't
their own
know how
stick,
to-
like more like pre-strung, pre-bought sticks?
Yeah,
Is that,
yeah.
Okay, got it.
They're definitely pre-strung, pre-bought. You get lucky if like your equipment manager knows how to string a stick.
Got it.
But she, I think, figured out, because I mean, that's what guys do. They know how to string their
Totally.
stick, and they have their way of doing it. And she's
No
doing that
doubt.
on the girl side.
Well,
But I'm trying to think anything else about her that's just
there's some good players around her. Do you see a lot of these people, these girls contributing for the UNCs and BCs being freshmen, sophomores? Or are they mostly like grad seniors with this COVID year and transfers?
so UNC's juniors, seniors transfers. They have a great transfer from Notre Dame, Andy Aldave. I don't think she gets nervous. Like she's like, I'm a 5th year. Like
Yeah.
I've been around
Been
the
there,
block.
done that. Yeah.
Yeah, like she is just out there having a blast. Like it's so fun to watch her play. And there was a lot of pressure on her shoulders at Notre Dame because she was the best player, and she had to take the draw. She had to play midfield. She tore her ACL and was coming back, and now she just plays attack. She basically just gets fed the ball inside, and she just catches and finishes, and it's really cool. UNC has a great sophomore. I'm blanking on her name. She's from Florida, but she just like dishes the ball. My sister was saying, like, I just watch how she passes the ball, and I'm trying to do that. And I'm like, okay. Like my sister and I watch all the games on FaceTime together. And then they have Jamie Ortega. They have she does things, and I'm like, oh, that looks so easy, but it's so hard.
Yeah.
And then on BC, they have a sophomore also forgetting, like all these kids are just so good. She's so good. What's her name? She's from Long Island as well.
Shocker.
And just so technical. They were talking about her. She was actually really good at volleyball too. So she's just like brings another different aspect to the game. I don't know. Like she's just great hands. And
Cool.
Is it Caitlin Würzburg?
oh, that's the UNC girl. Yeah, thank you. And then my sister would be so upset with me right now, but I'm just going to everyone's name.
Yeah, Maddie, one thing I want to cover here, like you mentioned Charlotte North stringing your own sticks. Like I've definitely noticed a big difference in the actual stick in the women's game, definitely from 2010 to now, but even like the last 4 or 5 years, like I'm seeing a much more offset head. Am I off there?
So they, in order to get a deeper pocket, but then also have a legal stick, your stick has to have like this dip in it.
Yeah, it's like a V now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when the refs check the stick, the ball has to be above the sidewall, and that's for that. And then
Okay.
Gary Gate, he kind of coined this term, the sweet spot. I think he coined it. It's where I first heard it. But that's where that V or that little indent is, and that's where the pocket and the ball sits up high. And that's why String King, when they built their new girl sticks, their pocket is already up there. And they've adjusted their sticks so they're not so tight down in the bottom. It was kind of like a little too difficult for a normal player to just use a String King, and now it's definitely easier. But again, we're running into the same issue. Boys restring their sticks all the time, I feel like, and they know how to do it, or there's someone around who can easily do it.
Totally.
For girls, I mean, I had 5 girls have illegal sticks last week because they all have String Kings, and they bag out because they're mesh. And that's just something we're trying to cope with right now. And I'm like, I guess boys do change out their mesh a lot, I think.
Yeah.
Or they have like 4 different sticks.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to.
I remember being in college and throwing around with some girls' sticks at Loyola, and the snap off the top plastic was so sharp that it came out so fast. But like a boy's stick, I know boys' sticks that would hit the top too. It was like, it wasn't as prominent. It's definitely not my preference. I know some kids definitely like it, but like I saw so much speed coming off that plastic that she didn't really need like a deep bag. She's had that like snap. And I was like, geez, like no wonder you can get so much power coming off these small pockets. It just clicks off the top and shoots out. It's an interesting little wrinkle that I've seen girls have.
No, it's crazy. And it like we got STX sticks my freshman year at Duke, and I got a stick that was almost essentially mesh. It was like made out of all shooting string. It was so funny. And everyone was like, oh, you like that stick? I was like, yes, I love this stick. And then we got new ones my junior year or sophomore year and hated it. Had like a regular stringing. And then I got to go back to my old stick after I literally blew it half the season. And the first game back against UVA using my old stick, I had like 4 goals. And I looked at my offensive coach and I was like,
see,
it is the stick.
Let's go. Let's go.
I do. I have heard around like the NCAA, and sometimes offensive coordinators will get in, like will feel like they have control to talk about, to kind of change a player's stick, and it irks me so much. I've been stringing my stick since I was like 7 years old, and then I get to college and they throws my stick. I'm like, what how do you think I got here? Like, right, it is with that stick. So if you don't want me to use that stick, you're not going to see like that kind of product in a certain way.
Basically what you were recruited.
Yeah, so that's where I'm like, I heard a story at UVA, and we'll have to get Doc Sagan on the pod to talk about it, but they got a new coordinator that's now at the Cannons, and like he like restrung his stick after he came back from that Villanova football year. He's like in the top, he might be the top midfielder point scorer at Virginia.
Leading scorer in midfield history of Virginia, yeah.
And this offensive coordinator is like, no, you should use this. And I'm like, what the? I heard that story. It made me he makes me so angry. I'm like, let the kids spin. Like, don't have any, like, just tell them where to stand if you want to go that far. But that's a little diatribe on sticks that we had to get into. But going back to the women's game and the creativity that's becoming, you're seeing it on more teams. Like Cuse and Loyola is like, I feel like pretty notorious for having a style, because their coaches Dovey and Adams, and they're really like their practices look like there's so much fun. We're out there running up and down the field getting whacked, and they're out there like flinging it over their heads one after another with like a bunch of cones around the field. Looks like playland. But more so, and then you see more Loyola girls end up being coaches in the college game, and that game kind of being spread, and the pros all practice stuff like that, and then they're coaching. So talk to us about kind of, is it taken over? Is the style that you played at Duke kind of going out the door, and coaches like that are being kind of replaced by this new wave that works more efficiently? Or is it kind of just like there's always going to be the sets and that kind of girls lacrosse around the 8 and like the weave? Or is it?
I think because of the shot clock being implemented, from the goalie clear, they have 90 seconds to get it down. And then if you hit the goalie, I think it resets to 60 now. And then if there's like an offsides, I'm not really sure all the rules about the actual clock. But with that, it's kind of like you got to just get the job done. Before it was like, settle it down, depending on the team. Like some teams never settled it. So the year the shot clock was implemented, Duke was like struggled, didn't make it into the tournament. Like, because we used to.
That's interesting.
Beat Maryland here by like one. We beat them. I think it was like 6-5. Like that's how many goals we would score. Our puppy. Little episode.
Wants some attention.
We're fans of dogs on the pod. That's funny you say like, a 6-5 game. Like even in the men's game with the shot clock, but we rarely see that now. And I look at these women's box scores, and I'm seeing so many like high teens, even some low 20s. It's pretty incredible.
No, it's sick. And it just makes it way more fun. And that's why I think people are like, you have to score. So you're going to see like Emily Harris-Check like doing outrageous things. And
who does she play for?
She plays for Syracuse.
Okay.
If she scored a winning goal or a tying goal against BC in the ACCs, like the ball was bouncing from a clear from the goalie, just like 5 seconds left. And it's bouncing and she's running after it. She just like whacked it in, and it does something huge. I forget what, but it was like top 20 play. And then also goalies have gotten a lot better. So everyone's just crushing.
They have no choice but to get better. Charlotte North's bringing it 90 miles an hour.
I know.
Yeah.
The Notre Dame goalie, Bridget Dean, is like insane. And then, but every goalie is just so good. Richmond's goalie, trying to think of another really good one. UNC's goalie is obviously great.
Where's Northwestern been these days?
I just don't watch many of their games, but they are good. They are good.
They're still elite.
Just not as fun to watch.
I just don't get to watch them very often.
They had a serious run, and they kind of been like pushed aside maybe by BC and some ACC getting involved. And
they just had a reputation of being a team that was like militant, and I don't think many people wanted to go once it got kind of scary.
Yeah.
And there are more options now too. I mean, I look at these box scores and I'm seeing schools from all over the country. The game just expanded so much. Like if Stanford sounds more fun, like I'm going to go to Stanford than this like, military factory in Chicago, Northwestern.
Yeah. So, and coaches have reputations like either take it or leave it. I mean,
I think that's coming in the boys game. I think it's happened faster in the girls game because obviously the alumni started becoming, there's like a pro kind of level for the girls that's been feeding them to play the game more, and they're all coaching, and it's kind of flushed out the old kind of coaches that were around, you could say. And the boys, the men's is like right behind. I see like a lot of militant coaches that are kind of going to be looking for jobs in a couple of years, because kids rather go play at a Jacksonville or for one of these young kids that has a more interesting flair for the dramatic, or has a longer leash which is that every kid
Yeah.
just wants a player's coach that can relate to him and that will give him a fair shake at the end of the day. So,
Right. And I agree. I think a lot of the head coaches on the women's side are relying on their younger assistant coaches more and more
to recruit, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they know, like, oh, this game is not the same anymore. And if you see Chris Saylor at Princeton, she's going to retire after this year. She has two great assistant coaches. One is a really good friend, and then Jen Cook played at, I think, UNC. That, like, they beat teams that Ivy League schools don't beat because I watched them on the sideline, the coaching staff. Like, Chris has like a little, her role is like dealing with the refs and maybe talking to a player when they come off, but it is like on the attack, it's my friend Karen like screaming at her girls. On defense, and it's the assistant coaches and Jen Cook on defense, like just talking to the girls. And they lost to Loyola by 1 the other day. And Loyola is sick. Like, Loyola
they've beaten Loyola. Yeah, it goes. I feel like Loyola, Princeton. Back when I was there, I remember them losing some games to them, and then going back there in the tournament one year. And no, that's exciting, and that's awesome to hear that these, assistant coaches are going to be head coaches. It just brings a whole level of excitement to the women's game that I think is not needed, but it's there, and it's gonna just overall benefit the players at the end of the day.
For sure.
Which is really exciting. I think we can go into some predictions and put you on the spot. What are some games you're looking forward to down the stretch, and who do you think is going to make a run? And like JMU had a win a couple years ago,
yes,
for a national title.
They just beat Maryland, so
they had a big win.
They are like they are clicking on all cylinders right now. They beat UVA, like, pretty handily. I guess UVA came back, but JMU is sneaky. And then Jacksonville is hungry.
Love that. Love that. We're
big
huge
Dolphin
Jacksonville fans.
They are good. And then, I mean, I'm trying to think if there's any outliers. Richmond's always great. But Duke has a lot of fifth years. Their goalie is stepping up big. I'm interested to see how they do against UNC.
Is that this weekend? Are you going for?
It might be. I don't like to know. Like,
you just want to go to the game.
Yeah, you just want to show up on your couch on Saturday and turn on ESPN and just see all the games. Yeah.
Because I will get worked up the entire week. And then, I mean, Duke men's basketball is playing UNC this week. And I've already got all these parents that play for me who love UNC texting me being like, "Go Heels." And I'm like, I can't take it.
Coach K, baby. Coach K.
So nervous. So I try to just not worry about it till the day of, and I'm like, oh, they're playing them today. I'll want to text the girls and be like, good luck, and I freak them out, and I can't deal with it. So it's definitely, that's a great game. Obviously Notre Dame versus Duke. It was snowing, they were playing at Notre Dame. I was like, great. BC versus Duke will be great. But yeah, I think Princeton will make a great run. Yale just beat UPenn, and that never, like, UPenn is a great Ivy League school. Usually you see like Penn and Princeton at the end, but Yale beat them by 1 the other day, and Yale's been pretty quiet the past few years. Maybe they're figuring it out.
I love hearing about
good to hear some parity.
Yeah, exactly. Because we came in talking like there are two teams. Now we're hearing that all these teams are sprouting up, and it could shake out to be a pretty
good thing we had you on, Maddie.
Yeah.
UNC is always good in the beginning, and then past couple of years they kind of choke.
Spoken from a true Dookie. No, I love it. That's awesome. But so the tournament's come around the corner. I guess there's probably 6 more regular season games. Yeah, or 4 or 5, and then you get in the tournaments. What are some predictions for just a quick your Final Four right now? We won't hold you to it.
I mean, Syracuse is due. I just love, and they have a great new head coach, Kayla Trainer. She just won with BC, so I think she's gonna get them there. So I think Syracuse. I could see Maryland and Northwestern, depending on how the whole lead up is.
We'll get you back on when the bracket's out, but
I know,
right
like,
now, mid-season.
Right now, UNC, BC, Syracuse. I love my ACC. And then I bet Michigan. Oh my gosh. I bet. Okay.
Oh, Michigan's good.
Yeah, Michigan is good. All right. We'll just go with
The Big
Northwestern
10,
now.
Northwest,
But
a traditional. Okay.
yeah. Maryland has this great, I think she's Canadian girl, Aurora something. She just transferred from Hopkins and she's amazing. I love watching her play.
Wow.
So yeah.
That was a great whirlwind of the girls lacrosse landscape.
That was a lot of emotion right there. Northwestern, hold me to it. Northwestern, Syracuse, UNC, BC.
Perfect. We'll talk about that.
I guess I should
again.
have Duke in there, but
yeah, you're gonna have some hateful looks when you go back in the next week or so.
yeah, wait to post this after.
No promises on that.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for coming on. This has been amazing. And our listeners,
Maddie, really appreciate your time.
Anytime.
This has been great. Always
Thanks for
appreciate
having
it.
me.
Yeah, that was really fun having Maddie on to talk about the women's game. I work with her husband, so I had to stop by their place in the middle of the work week one day, and there she was just watching game film of ESPN games from last Saturday, and we started talking, and I knew right away she needed to be a reoccurring guest on the show and talk to us more and more as the women's season progresses. And yeah, I thought that was incredible.
Really a pleasure to have her on. Clearly a wealth of knowledge for the women's game, something that Kyle and I need desperately. So yeah, I can't wait to keep having her on and keep learning more about the women's games. I'm excited for this weekend. I can't wait to watch. And yeah, really appreciate Maddie.
Let's talk about big performers, big players this weekend. Who do you got?
I said earlier when we briefly talked about the Yale Princeton game, Matt Brandow, I mean, for Princeton to be coming to town off stringing together, huge wins. Princeton's coming off a Georgetown, a Rutgers, and a Penn win. Princeton's an absolute freight train coming off maybe the most impressive 3-game winning streak thus far in college lacrosse. Yale to come out with a huge 14-12 win, and for their senior stalwart attackman have 8 points and a top 10, a Sports Center top 10 worthy backhanded goal.
That was a snipe.
Yeah, absolutely filthy. Again, I think he's the best player that nobody's talking about right now.
Love that. I'm going with the player a lot of people are talking about right now, Tucker Dorotovic.
Yeah, hard not to.
He shows up every game. This game, he looked extremely possessed and hungry and did a great job canning his shots. He went 5-2, 5 goals. It was a hell of a day. And we just throw it around like nothing. It's impressive on a Duke defense and Mike Adler and Cage. And that through the legs viral clip, like he was unconscious, and that's what Syracuse needed to get that win. So kudos to him, big time player, makes big time plays. I wish there was an ACC tournament for that Cuse team, because that is a team you wouldn't want to see in the tournament.
Yeah, they're getting hot at the right time.
Speaking of people getting hot, quick picks. Georgetown, Denver. Who do you got?
Pios. Go Denver.
Ooh. Big East matchup.
Upset.
We're going in conference. I'm taking Georgetown. They're going on the road. They're going to get a big win. They're rolling off that momentum from Lehigh. I think Georgetown continues the train of dominance that we saw early in the year. And then they went into a little lull of playing, worse teams. And now they're back in a big game. I think it's going to be great.
I think it's going to be a great game. I think Denver's going to surprise some people. Duke, UNC.
I got Carolina. At home, I think Chris Gray has kind of been in the shadow a little bit, and he's
just because of their schedule, the recent schedule.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, they haven't been playing the big hitters, but I think this is he's feasting looking at that Duke film. I think the Duke defense has a lot of holes, and I think Carolina's hungry for that big win after they've had wins, but they haven't had a big win since they got showed up by Ohio State.
Yeah, I think Duke bounces back. I think Duke is historically an excellent bounce back team. Danowski's record off a loss is impeccable. I'm rolling with the Blue Devils. Big day from Nakai Montgomery. That's what I'm predicting. Cuse Notre Dame in South Bend. I'm going
Also,
with Notre
back on
Dame.
that comment, do you think Nakai Montgomery's can get the better of Matt Wright if that ends up being the matchup?
I think
'Cause
it's
he's terrific.
I think it's honestly, it's a tough, it's going to be athletically maybe the hardest matchup that Matt Wright's going to have all year. Nakai is a
Well, he
really,
also covered Connor Schellenberger too.
I know that, but Nakai is such they're different types of Dodgers. I'm trying to search for the right word here, but Nakai is such a violent Dodger, violent in his movements, whereas I think Schellenberger's a little bit smoother in his movements. I don't know. It's a slight difference.
It's ticker tack at this point with how good these guys are, but I just think
that will be a hell of a matchup. That's a great point. That'll be a hell of a matchup. A future NFL running back versus a future Team Canada poll.
It's true.
We'll see. We'll see about that. But
Cuse Notre Dame.
Yeah, Cuse Notre Dame. I'm going with Notre Dame. I think it's a must-win situation for them. I think they're 2-5, 3-5. Must win for the Irish, and I think Notre Dame comes out on top.
I'm going orange. We just heard from Curry. I'm jacked up on the Cuse chain. Gary, Petro. It's a love relationship, and I'm excited to see. It's love. I'm excited to see what they're going to be excited to go to Notre Dame and coming off that Duke win. I don't think the offense really skips a beat.
Penn at Yale, your place.
I went with Cornell last week. I'm going with Penn this week. I can't stop hiding from the fact that they're an elite team. They've crossed they've crossed the bridge, let's say, to greatness. And I think they take care of Yale at home.
They're at Yale, but I think the Quakers are gonna do their thing. Penn's gonna win. I think it'll be Penn stringing together back-to-back wins in the Ivy League will be a big statement. Cornell, then Yale. Penn's gonna win.
Another Ivy League, Princeton Brown.
I really like Princeton, and I'm really disappointed with what I saw in Brown this past weekend. I think Princeton's just better, top to bottom, deeper. Well, I do like Brown's first four guys on offense a lot. I think Princeton has 4 or 5 guys that can have a 7-point day. So I really like Princeton.
What lacks with me for Brown is their midfield, and especially their second midfield. So if any, I'm taking Princeton as well to go up to Rhode Island and take that game.
Jacksonville High Point.
Big game here on Snapping Towels in the SoCon.
You already know.
I gotta go with my Fins.
Yeah,
but we're Dolphin guys.
Jacksonville's we're both taking Jacksonville. You can pencil that in from both of us. It's going to be a great game. Both teams. You can
say it's biased, but we'll see what happens.
It's going to be a great game. I'm really excited to watch the 6 matchup against I think his name's Colin Hinton matchup against Asher Nolting. If in fact he does match up with Asher Nolting, there are a couple other good attackmen on High Point. I'm not sure who the best matchups are going to be.
I think we'll see 6 on him.
Yeah, so do I. It's gonna be an epic matchup. I think you can pencil it in for great weather. It's at High Point. I think it'll be good weather. Fun game in the SoCon. It'll be a good showcase of SoCon lacrosse. Finally, we get to see these games. We've been seeing all these out-of-conference games for the SoCon. To see these two teams go at it will be a privilege.
Absolutely. We got a CAA battle. Delaware, UMass could be the CAA championship.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a preview of the CAA championship. I mean, thus far, these are the 2 best teams in the CAA.
Towson can play. So
I think Towson's a clear number 3 in my personal opinion.
Yeah, so you want to see them in the semis. Like whoever wins this game is going to be the 1 seed, and then
I agree.
2 is going to have seeds. Yeah, so.
But I'm taking my Blue Hens.
Are you kidding me?
A big win for them. Obviously, UMass is very good. UMass has played.
You already know I'm taking the
some excellent
Minutemen
teams
for the 3rd time in a row.
I like it. I like
They're
it.
gritty. They've got the skill on offense. They got depth. No one wants to see their poles. I'm going black cleats, UMass, getting that win at home.
Adidas. I love it. I love it. Army Bucknell, Patriot League matchup to round us out here.
I'm with Army. I think their defense is stout and Brendan Nick Turn. What they did at Loyola was very impressive, being down the whole game and hanging in and really coming out and taking that game from the Hounds. So I'm going Army.
I'm taking Army as well, but I think people will be surprised at Bucknell's effort in this game. Bucknell's pretty darn good. I think they're 7-2. They put Loyola on the ropes. Bucknell, beat a solid Penn State team. Bucknell's no slouch.
And going to Bucknell to play is not an easy game to get up for. Let's be honest. There's probably going to be 20 people in the stands, and they'll be all cheering for the Bison. So marquee matchup. What do you got?
We talked about it enough already, but High Point Jacksonville. It's gonna be a heavyweight matchup of the SoCon. Tons of good players on the field here. We've talked about them a lot this year, and just real legit NCAA tournament implications here. And this is a big game because we talked about Richmond. Probably only 2 teams are getting in from the SoCon. It's not going to be a 3-team league. So this is a big game. The winner of this goes a long way.
Yeah, I mean, Jacksonville's still ranked like top 10. They're 9th. So if they win, if they
lose the High Point and Richmond.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Then the SoCon might get 1 team in. Yeah. Might go back to that 1 team. If Jacksonville keeps this out of conference streak up and wins in league till they get to the tournament, they don't necessarily need to win the SoCon, and there you would have 2 teams get in. Jacksonville wins out and wins the SoCon, it's going to be a 1 team coming from the SoCon. If Richmond and High Point upset and maybe upset Jacksonville in the regular season, I just don't see them getting a bid without the SoCon if you're High Point or Richmond. But if you're Jacksonville, I can.
High Point put together a really nice first half of the year. I know these are losses, but they took Duke and Virginia to the brink. They took Virginia to a one possession game.
I just don't see. I see the committee just going off record, and not how close the games were, which is unfortunate. I think they deserve, because
Jacksonville High Point has real players. They've got some pros.
Oh yeah, they deserve 2 teams.
They do. Yeah.
So the fact that if it could get messy in this end of the season and conference wins and stuff, and in the tournament Jacksonville wins, they only let 1 team in, that could be a problem.
Worth noting that Richmond plays Virginia this weekend. Maybe should have been in our quick picks. It's not another opportunity for the SoCon. It's going to be a
great game. Yeah.
It's another opportunity for the SoCon to really show out on national TV.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Who's your marquee matchup? Who do you got?
I'm going Duke UNC. You're going to see it in the March Madness Final Four. There's a lot of buzz around those 2 campuses and hatred, and it's going to be Carolina's 30th game at home of the season.
Pretty cool and pretty special timing.
It's great. I think it's great for lacrosse. Great. It's good. Hopefully they give it a mention that it's happening. But yeah, I'm going that game. I think it's going to be fireworks. I think Duke's going to give it an incredible effort coming after that embarrassing loss to them, probably at Cuse, because Cuse hasn't had the year that, they should be having. So I think, Duke UNC, it's just something about the rivalry. Anything could happen. And last year they played for the, they split. They went 1-1 last year. They played for the NCAA at the end of the year. I mean, ACC at the end of the year, and UNC came out on top. So really couldn't speak during that one. But anyways, that's who we got, and that's who we'll have eyes on this weekend.
Should be fun. That does it for episode 9 of Snapping Towels. Thank you so much.
Action-packed episode.
Yeah.
Again, special thanks to Maddie Buss and Brendan Curry for gracing us and our listeners on the podcast. That was huge. We'll hopefully be keeping up with Maddie more frequently, and wish Curry the best of luck at the end of the season.
Yes. Thank you again to all of our listeners for all the love and the time you spent listening to us. Please like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. and check us out on Spotify as well.
Get the word out, snap it around. Peace.
Later.